Welcome to Marin Voices and Views. With Lawrence A. Strick, I'm Peter B. Collins. In our second segment today, we'll meet Dominican University's Dr. Denise Lucy and learn about the Institute for Leadership Studies that she founded.
First, Peter, we have a real broadcaster with us today, Dana King. Dana was primetime news anchor on CBS-owned KPIX, Channel 5 here in San Francisco, for more than 15 years until she retired to get a real job being a full-time sculptress. Dana started in sales down in Los Angeles, became a reporter on Channel 7 in LA, anchored the news for Good Morning America, CBS Morning News, and reported for the CBS Nightly News. She joined CBS in San Francisco in '97 and continued to travel the world bringing important stories to all us here in San Francisco. Dana King now serves as the chair of the leadership committee for MarinKids, and they advocate for all children throughout all of our communities. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's start with the TV component of you. You did it forever.
I know.
You were great at it.
Thank you.
Did it change a lot during the years you were doing it? And give us the high and low points for you.
Well, first I would say I'm just so grateful for the career I had. I traveled the world. I met the most amazing people. I learned so much personally and grew personally through my work. But you can't have that kind of career anymore. The business has changed radically in the 25 years that I've been a part of it. And, you know, it became, I became the journalist who said, you know, when I was a reporter, why we never, or we always, and I thought, I have to go. I have to go, because it's not going to get any better for me at this point. And I have to turn it over to the young people who don't have that history of how it used to be and what we are able to do and accomplish. And they have to find their own way. But, you know, it is a business. It's the broadcasting business, and those that own it, and those that own it are just a few now. When I first started, there was a 7-7-7 rule. The FCC would only allow a company to own 7 TV stations, 7 radio stations, and 7 newspapers in a market, or in the country. Right. And now it's like, have at it. You can own as much as you want, and I think that's a problem. But it's about making money. I mean, in 1958, Edward R. Murrow complained to the Radio Television News Directors Association, RTNDA, that it was a business and that money was influencing the business in all the wrong ways. That was in 1958.
I can't imagine it got very much better.
That was on the Lucky Strike Theater or something like that, right?
I know, where everyone smoked and did advertisements. So it is a business, and unfortunately it's a business that is unpredictable. You can't budget for things like war. You can't budget for disaster and tragedy. And so when you pay for that, to cover it, then something else has to give. And I just had enough.
So has TV news lost its way, Dana? I mean, on one hand, we have sensational coverage of murder and mayhem, and on the other hand, we get TMZ-style Kardashian updates and fluff that's derived from the reality TV show that was the lead-in to the newscast that night. Has it just become a product influenced by market research to get the highest possible ratings?
I think it's always been influenced by market research because advertisers want to know who's watching, and they will buy according to what demographic watches what. I think we lost the viewer along the way when the viewer could no longer differentiate between what was actual news and what was infotainment. When we started to have shows like Inside Edition, and I can't even think of the ones that are on now, because they sort of had a news slant, but they were more entertainment. And so that was the first step into the abyss, I think. And I think the second step was when networks became advocates when they advocated for political positions. And I think we all know who we're talking about here. And I think that then it became the viewer who had to discern what it was they were seeing and hearing and reading. And I don't think that is their job necessarily. I mean, people are busy enough. They want to be able to tune into a program and trust it, that it isn't editorializing, that it's factual. So I think that's the nature of the business now, is that it's been left to the viewer to decide what it is they're seeing and hearing and reading, and whether it's all the information or is it just part of it.
Well, I can assure you this show is not owned by Disney.
We tried to sell it to them.
Yeah,
they turned us down.
Right down.
They bought Lucas instead. Yeah.
But one of the reasons we started this show is because TV stations and even newspapers in San Francisco somehow have a difficulty getting over the bridge and finding out anything that's happening locally in Marin County. Even the Marin County newspaper at times has difficulty finding out what's in Marin County, in my opinion. Be that as it may, you're here to talk about MarinKids, and it's a group local here, and we want you to talk about it and how you got involved with them, given the fact that your kids are kind of bigger than that and doing other things.
Well, that's exactly why I got involved. My kids are grown now. My daughter graduates college in less than a month. Yes!
All right.
So, and my son is 25, but we moved here from New York, and we could have moved anywhere, but we chose to move to Marin because of the schools. And we picked 5 school districts in which we would look for housing, and we settled in one of them. I'm very grateful for the public school system here, but I have a son who's developmentally disabled, and he didn't fit in. He had a very difficult time in the mainstream school districts, and while he has received an unbelievable amount of help through the mental health community here in the county, he had a very hard time in school, and so I know what it's like to be outside of the system and watch your child struggle. And there are children who struggle in this county. You know, unfortunately, most people perceive the county to be perfect. Very wealthy, everyone's educated, they live in fine homes, we eat quality food, but that's not the case for a chunk of children here. There's an inequity in our educational system. Children go to bed hungry here. They have difficulty. And so MarinKids was started to close the gaps in achievement educationally and in healthcare and housing and our initial job was just to educate people to what exactly the issues are. And so we spent the first year or so doing that. And our job is as advocates for children. And we want to live in a community where there's opportunity around every corner for every child. And it starts in pre-K.
And one of your goals seems really obvious, but it's to make sure that public policy and the allocation of resources are based on what's good for children. And I'm not belittling your focus there, but it seems like we shouldn't have to remind our leaders of that.
Well, you're absolutely right. We shouldn't have to, but we do. The County Board of Supervisors, through the leadership of Ms. Arnold, is now very focused on the educational equity gap. And they just added that goal into the board's goals for their term: education, the economy, equity, and the environment. So yeah, we do have to remind them. It's as simple as asking, no matter what it is you do, whether you're a builder or you're a business owner or you do landscaping, it doesn't matter. What is it that you're doing and how does it affect the children? That's the first question.
We understand that healthcare is another one of the priorities for your organization, healthcare for kids. Given what's been going on in California and the cutbacks all over the state at every level, have the kids here in Marin taken a hit on their healthcare?
That gap is
Options.
very small. The numbers that we're talking about, hundreds of kids that are left without health care. So there was a great coalition of organizations that got together to work on the health care for children in Marin, and they have closed that gap. We're not at 100%, but we're almost there. But the issue, more importantly, are issues like obesity. You know, our kids, 40 to 50% of economically disadvantaged kids, brown and black kids, are either of an unhealthy weight or they're obese. We've got 50% of the kids in the whole county, doesn't matter what color they are, how much money they make, they don't hit the athletic achievement goals for kids their age. How is that possible? We live in such a beautiful community. We have water, we have mountains, we have trails, we bike and hike, and our kids are unhealthy.
We got computers.
Exactly, right.
Yeah, they have very well-developed thumbs.
Yeah, I know. And maybe when they're our age, they'll suffer from carpal tunnel from it. But in the meantime, you know, it'd be nice if they were able to eat healthy. I mean, more than 20% of our kids are on either a free or a partially paid lunch program at schools. So, you know, it's all the almighty dollar. You know, we have a poverty issue, and that poverty issue means that kids don't eat healthy. It means that kids don't get to go to after-school programs for athletics. It means, you know, that then they're different from their friends. They're ostracized. They're not happy. I mean, it's just it's a circle, and that's what we want.
It's great you're doing this, because we've seen on a number of issues at Marin Voices and Views that there's a failure to identify that there's a substantial minority of needy people here in Marin on every level. And it's great to have an advocate for kids or everything else.
Dana, the President in his State of the Union message called for preschool for all in his budget. He's proposing a new tobacco tax to pay for it. What are your thoughts about, in our community, how many kids aren't able to attend preschool? And do you think that the resolution to that should be local, or do you look to the federal government for it?
Well, I would say I think it should be local. These are our kids, and we need to connect with their parents and know what their needs are in order to achieve them. That said, roughly 27% of the kids here in the county don't attend pre-K. And when you break it down even further, it means that more than 90% of Caucasian kids go to preschool. And what is it? More than 30% of Latino children don't. Kids need to go to preschool. And it's not just preschool, it's not school, it's socialization, it's childcare, it's so many things. And so we are actually working, there's a collaboration, it's called the Child Care Investment Initiative, and we are working to ascertain the level of commitment for Marin residents if they would pay for a pre-K, preschool for all initiative on the ballot. It'll be on the ballot, hopefully hopefully soon. But there's a coalition of organizations involved in working on that, and many have been working on it for a long time, long before the president identified it.
Well, we'll look for progress on that, and I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And direct people to MarinKids.org to get more information. Dana King, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Our second guest today is Dr. Denise Lucy from Dominican University, where she's the founder and executive director of the Institute for Leadership Studies. Dr. Lucy has an impressive resume with degrees from Michigan State and Cal State Fresno and a doctorate in organization and leadership from the University of San Francisco. She joined Dominican in 1993 and has served as Chief Academic Officer, Dean of the School of Liberal Studies and Professional Studies. 11 years ago, she started the Institute for Leadership Studies, which, among other things, partners with Book Passage to present the Leadership Lecture Series, now 10 years strong, that recently brought us Al Gore, Salman Rushdie, Madeleine Albright, Gavin Newsom, and many other great guests. Welcome, Dr. Denise Lucy.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
First, if you could give us a quick overview of Dominican University. It's grown quite a bit. How many students and faculty and how many roughly degree programs are offered?
Well, Dominican was founded by the Dominican sisters in 1890, so we are celebrating a rich, long tradition. And when I first started 20 years ago, we had about 600 students in degrees, both bachelor's and master's. But today we have approximately 2,200 students, both graduate and undergraduate, and another 900 what we call OLLI students, who are OSHA Lifelong Learning Institute. They have to be 50 years of age or older. I'd say the average age is around 70, and they represent a significant component of our community. So we have almost 3,000, about 3,000 people on our campus.
And what's the faculty like? What's the size?
Oh, we have approximately 300 faculty, and about 100 of those are full-time faculty. We have around 20 undergraduate majors, and I'm going to say about a half a dozen graduate majors.
Okay.
Well, that explains how you went from a college to a university about 12 years ago.
Right.
And I think a lot of people think of Dominican as having a religious component, or even being a religious university. What is the relationship between the Catholic Church and the university?
Well, the university has never been owned by the Catholic Church. We were founded by the Dominican sisters, owned by the sisters. But then in the 70s, we actually became owned by a lay board. We're a nonprofit university. The Dominican sisters are 1/7 of our board and very important part of our ethos and our community. But we are not owned and never have been owned by the Catholic Church. We are Catholic in heritage, however, of course.
And you're a co-ed institution.
Oh, we're a co-ed institution. Around the mid-70s, Sister Conlon took the chance. You know, women colleges had difficulty with transition of needing to move to men and women co-ed institutions, and some of them still haven't done that, but we did, and we're thriving because of it. We have quite a few male students. We have many, many students who are athletes. Also, of course, with Title IX, we have men and women athletes. But we have a wonderful, wonderful community. About 25% of the students are male.
And there's no religious requirement in the academic program?
Well, our general education does require a religion requirement. We have a world religions requirement, which is an important part of culture.
Now tell us a little bit about the School of Business and Leadership. And I'm particularly interested in the leadership part. Does this refer to corporate leadership? And do you think that business leaders have a responsibility to give back to the community?
Well, our School of Business and Leadership is a combination of both undergraduate and graduate programs. We feature specializations in accounting, finance, marketing, international business, and management. We also have a minor in leadership and a minor in sports management. That's at the undergraduate level. And at the graduate level, we have MBAs in a Green MBA, which was the first Green MBA in the country, we're proud to say. We own the name.
Yeah.
And it's a program in sustainable enterprise. We have an MBA in international business and an MBA in strategic leadership. So our history of our business school was really fundamentally around global business. And then, the last, I'm going to say the last 8 or 9 years, we changed the name to Business and Leadership, where we felt that many business schools are still called management schools. But in the early 90s, the literature really started shifting and changing as it observed the world, and management and leadership are seen as not the same things, and that we need both. And so that's what we seek to foster, is both business and leadership.
And is the leadership, is it confined to the corporate role? Or do you see, as I mentioned, that business people need to go beyond that?
Oh no, our Institute for Leadership Studies, which is housed in the School of Business and Leadership, is actually a key organization that supports leadership development on our campus, and it's a consortium of the campus's departments. So across the university, whether in our school or the other schools, our students actually can minor in leadership, and we see leadership as key and critical to affecting change in the world, not just businesses.
I think that's really important because oftentimes now when you think of business and business schools, and just in the paper the other day they had the 10 highest paid hedge fund guys, and one guy had $2.2 billion a year in earnings. It seems that personal wealth and corporate profitability overshadow really the community and ethics that businessmen may have for the community. Does that come into play in your core curriculum?
Well, it does indeed. We have an ethics requirement in our curricula, and in our program in leadership minor, we have an additional requirement in leadership, because leadership is about ethics. And the academicians in the field will say that one can't really be leading if it's not ethical. Now, there's a big debate on this, isn't there? And I see it in my classroom, in my classrooms where I ask my students if Hitler was a leader, and 95% say that he was. And then we have a dialogue about what those behaviors are. Were they leaderly behaviors? Or what other kind of behaviors would you describe them to be? So.
Well, that sounds like a great discussion to have with kids or young adults who are moving into the business world or any other world that they may want to join when they get through with schooling.
So Denise, how would you say that an MBA from Dominican is different, or that the person with that MBA is different from Stanford, Santa Clara, Harvard?
Well, obviously those are spectacular organizations, and who wouldn't want to be an alumna or alumnus from those schools? I can speak to what Dominican does well, and I can tell you that we have approximately 400 students in our School of Business and Leadership, which means I know you as a student. My colleagues do too. And we're there to support you and assist you, not only just as you develop as a person, whether that's at the bachelor's or master's level, but also in helping you find internships and a good connection with the community, and give you the chance to actually engage not just in the classroom but extracurricularly. So we have a high-touch approach. I assume the other schools do too, but we certainly are proud of that.
Your department also presents a Women's Leadership Summit, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about that, but does it have a glass ceiling that the kids practice breaking through? I noticed my son went to a business school in Boston, and the house of the business school at Boston University actually has a glass ceiling in its lobby. He joked about, well, that's great for the kids because they could bust right through. But what is the Women's Series at your university look like?
The Women's Summit is a cooperation, a collaboration with the Marin Women's Commission for the last 10 years, where we've held each semester a dialogue about an issue related to how do we promote women's and girls' leadership. And so it's been an ongoing conversation. It's more of a dialogue than it is a curricula. But of course, in the curricula, we are looking at the issue of women's leadership. It's just critical, of course. When we see our legislators and we see CEOs in the Fortune 500, there are so few women leaders, and why is that? So is it cultural? Is it skill? Probably. I think we think cultural.
I'm sure you're right.
Denise, your lecture series is open to the public, and I've been to a number of the presentations this year. Former Vice President Gore, author Salman Rushdie, former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, our current Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom. What are your goals for the series, and what do students get out of it? I know as a member of the community I get a lot out of it, but what do you see as the value to students?
Well, before I really address the student benefits, I just need to say that this program is a partnership with Book Passage, and it's just a great friendship and partnership. They bring these terrific leaders from across the disciplines to Marin County, And then we partner with those who are appropriate for our series. So our goal is to, of course, to promote ethical behaviors and facilitate socially responsible leadership, and to feature and highlight leadership behaviors across the disciplines. So we look at leaders from all different fields, not just business, but also in literature, in politics, in social change, individual change. How do you as a person behave well as a leader? And how do you change and evolve in your life? So it's really been a great experience. So we have a program called the Leadership Host Ambassadors Club. And our students, and now faculty and staff have actually joined it too. We produce this all by volunteers. Of course, myself, and then I have a teammate who helps me, along with the book passage team. So we fill the house most often. You know? So we have a place that has 840 seats, and it takes a bit of effort to produce these events. This year we have 13 lectures. Last year we had a dozen. So we've had about almost 80 lectures since we started with these amazing people. So what do our students get from this? They get the chance to meet Al Gore. Not just meet him, but engage with him and be as close as we are today, and it thrills them. As much as they were thrilled by Jane Lynch, the actress from Glee. They were thrilled with Jane Lynch, and she was so great with them, as was Al Gore. So it's a terrific opportunity for them to be engaged with really important luminaries across the disciplines, and they love doing it. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us today, Denise Lucy, and people can get more information at the university website, which is dominican.edu.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming by.
Appreciate being invited. Thank you.